They said the first kings of Earth ruled for 241,000 years. Historians called it myth, until someone found their names carved in stone. The ancient Sumerians, architects of human civilization, left behind clay tablets that should contain primitive musings of a Bronze Age culture. Instead, they hold mathematical precision that defies explanation. Cosmic coordinates, genetic sequences, engineering principles that wouldn't be rediscovered for millennia. The truth slept beneath the sands of Iraq for 5,000 years, until the right eyes finally saw the patterns hidden in plain sight. The cuneiform wasn't poetry about gods, it was technical documentation. When the tablet was first touched, a strange electricity seemed to pass through flesh to memory. The symbols rearranged themselves like code seeking its compiler. The ancient writing didn't describe deities descending from heaven. It documented visitors arriving from stars. What if the beings the Sumerians called Anunnaki, those who came from the heavens to earth, weren't figments of primitive imagination? What if the oldest civilization on record was trying to tell us something that shatters the foundations of history itself? The dust of empires contains secrets, and secrets once awakened change everything they touch. What if our entire understanding of human origins is built on the greatest illusion of all? The cradle of civilization rests between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, in what was once called Mesopotamia. Here, 6,000 years ago, humanity made a quantum leap that historians still struggle to explain. In the span of a few centuries, nomadic tribes transformed into the world's first cities, complete with written language, mathematics, astronomy, agriculture, and complex social hierarchies. Conventional history calls it the Sumerian civilization, the first culture to leave written records of its existence. But beneath this sanitized academic narrative lies a mystery. The Sumerians themselves claimed their knowledge came directly from the Anunnaki, beings who descended from the heavens to shape human destiny. The temple complexes of ancient Ur and Eridu stand as monumental evidence of a civilization that emerged fully formed, with no clear evolutionary path. The ziggurats reach toward the sky like ancient transmission towers, their dimensions encoding astronomical alignments that would be impossible to calculate without advanced mathematics. Inside their sacred chambers, priests transcribed the words of beings they considered gods onto clay that would outlast empires. The forbidden archives of the British Museum hold tablets that scholars refuse to translate publicly. The symbols speak of genetic engineering, of mixing essence to create workers. They describe spacecraft and weapons of terrifying power. Most disturbing are the passages that detail the creation of consciousness itself, as if awareness were something that could be programmed, installed, or awakened. When the translations were first attempted, the linguists reported strange dreams, symbols appearing in their sleep, knowledge they couldn't possibly possess surfacing in their minds like ancient memories being defragmented and restored. The dust that clings to these artifacts glitters with unnatural persistence, as if time itself behaves differently around objects touched by the Anunnaki. Under electron microscopes, the clay reveals trace elements not native to Earth's composition. What happens when the foundations of history crumble beneath the weight of evidence too profound to ignore, yet too radical to accept? What illusions must shatter for truth to emerge? In 1923, a British archaeologist discovered a clay cylinder seal in the ruins of Ur that defied explanation. The seal, dated to approximately 4500 BCE, contained an astronomical chart so precise it mapped celestial bodies invisible to the naked eye. When modern astronomers analyzed the seal in 2016, they discovered something impossible. It accurately depicted the outer planets of our solar system, including Neptune and Uranus, planets that wouldn't be discovered until the 18th and 19th centuries, using advanced telescopes. The official explanation claimed coincidence, abstract art misinterpreted by modern minds seeking patterns. But then came the discovery that changed everything. Deep within the temple complex at Eridu, a chamber sealed for millennia revealed its secrets during an unauthorized excavation. Inside, preserved in dry silence, lay a collection of tablets unlike any found before. The writing was Sumerian, but the content was beyond comprehension. The tablets described beings who traveled between stars, who measured time in units corresponding to half-lives of radioactive elements, who understood principles of genetics and consciousness that modern science is only beginning to grasp. Most disturbing were the detailed anatomical drawings showing the creation of the first humans, not through divine breath but through precise genetic manipulation. The ancient text used symbols that, when translated, corresponded almost exactly to modern descriptions of DNA splicing and gene editing. They called it mixing essences, the combining of Anunnaki genetics with indigenous hominid species to create a new being capable of higher consciousness. The archaeologist who made this discovery vanished 3 weeks later. The tablets disappeared into classified collections. But photographs leaked, and translations circulated among researchers brave enough to risk their careers pursuing forbidden knowledge. The Sumerian word for god, dingir, appears throughout their texts. But linguistic analysis revealed that its original meaning wasn't deity but the rightful ones or those of the shining vessels. When these beings spoke, the Sumerians transcribed their words as the Mi, usually translated as divine powers, but more accurately rendered as information technology or program codes. What civilization 6,000 years ago possessed vocabulary sophisticated enough to describe advanced technology? How could the Sumerians, without telescopes, map celestial bodies invisible to human eyes? Why did they build their temples as perfect replicas of specific star systems, aligned with mathematical precision to celestial events? The mystery deepened when geneticists began examining the human genome for evolutionary markers. The results were troubling enough to be classified by multiple governments. Human DNA shows signs of what appears to be deliberate engineering, interventions that accelerated our development far beyond the gradual pace of natural selection. The genetic jump that separated early hominids from Homo sapiens happened with suspicious abruptness, creating beings with consciousness, abstract thought, and linguistic capabilities that far exceeded evolutionary necessity. Carbon dating of key archaeological sites revealed another anomaly. Civilization appeared simultaneously across different continents around 4000 BCE, as if activated by a common trigger. The sudden emergence of megalithic architecture, agriculture, and writing systems occurred without clear developmental stages. It was as if humanity awoke one morning with knowledge it didn't earn through gradual discovery. The ancient Sumerian epic of creation, the Enuma Elish, describes not mystical creation but terraforming, the scientific alteration of a planet to support specific life forms. It details genetic engineering, atmospheric modification, and the redirection of rivers to create habitable environments. What primitive culture would invent such concepts if they hadn't witnessed them firsthand? Most compelling are the linguistic connections between Sumerian and the coding languages of modern computing. The pictographic origins of cuneiform share structural similarities with binary systems. The Sumerian approach to mathematics, based on units of 60 rather than 10, creates computational efficiencies that wouldn't be rediscovered until the digital age. Their astronomical calculations used algorithmic functions that mirror modern simulation protocols. Within the hidden chamber at Eridu, one tablet bore an inscription that continues to haunt those who've read it. The gods created man in their image, from their blood and bone, to serve as vessels of remembrance. When the cycles complete and the stars align, the sleepers shall awaken to their true inheritance. What inheritance awaits humanity? What illusion shatters when the sleepers awake? And if the Anunnaki were not gods but travelers from beyond our world, what was their true purpose in engineering human consciousness? The answers may lie in the stars, or perhaps within our own DNA, where ancient code still runs silently beneath the surface of modern awareness, waiting for the right key to unlock what we were always meant to remember. What if evolution was not a random process but a carefully designed program with humanity as its ultimate expression? What if consciousness itself is not an emergent property, but a downloaded capability, installed by engineers of perception we came to worship as gods? The academic establishment stands guard at the gates of acceptable history. Those who dare suggest ancient astronaut theories find their careers destroyed, their funding revoked, their reputations sullied. Yet in private, these same institutions maintain specialized departments dedicated to analyzing artifacts that defy conventional explanation. The contradiction exists because the evidence exists, too substantial to ignore, too dangerous to acknowledge publicly. In the basement laboratories of the Smithsonian, a team of material scientists examined fragments of Sumerian artifacts using quantum resonance imaging in 2019. They discovered nanostructures within the clay, deliberate patterns visible only at microscopic scales, forming what appeared to be circuit-like arrangements. The official report classified these findings as mineral anomalies of unknown origin. The unofficial analysis suggested something far more provocative: information encoded at the quantum level, preserved for millennia in seemingly primitive materials. Meanwhile, in the remote highlands of Kurdistan, where ancient Mesopotamian sites remain largely unexplored due to political instability, local witnesses reported strange phenomena around newly exposed ruins. Electronics malfunctioned in specific patterns. Compasses spun wildly near certain stone formations. Most disturbing were the dreams, consistent visions experienced by unrelated individuals who slept near the sites. Dreams of stars rearranging themselves, of knowledge flowing like water into waiting vessels, of awakening to find oneself both observer and observed. The dichotomy between public knowledge and classified truth grows wider with each new discovery. Universities teach that Sumerians were primitive people who invented gods to explain natural phenomena they couldn't understand. Yet the same institutions quietly study Sumerian mathematical texts that accurately calculate planetary orbits, predict celestial events, and describe atomic structures with puzzling precision. The contradiction extends beyond academia into the realm of genetics. The Human Genome Project completed its first full sequence in 2003, mapping what scientists expected to be the gradual evolution of our species. Instead, they found what some researchers privately termed intervention points, places where dramatic genetic changes appeared with suspicious abruptness. The most significant of these coincides with the sudden appearance of Homo sapiens sapiens approximately 200,000 years ago. Beings with cranial capacity, linguistic abilities, and abstract thinking capabilities that far exceeded evolutionary necessity. Most telling was the discovery of what geneticists now call junk DNA, vast stretches of genetic material that appeared to serve no function. But when researchers at the University of Chicago applied algorithms designed to detect encrypted information to these sequences in 2021, they found statistical patterns consistent with artificial encoding, patterns that matched, with unsettling precision, mathematical formulas found on Sumerian astronomical tablets. The silence surrounding these discoveries speaks volumes. Scientific journals reject papers exploring these connections. Research grants disappear, careers end. Yet the evidence accumulates, passed through underground networks of researchers who value truth above professional safety. In the filtered light of ancient temple ruins, where dust motes dance like stars in miniature, the weight of hidden knowledge presses down like gravity from a denser world. The stones themselves seem to vibrate with unspoken truth, as if reality itself strains against the illusion that contains it. Consider the Sumerian concept of me, usually translated as divine powers, but more accurately understood as information technology or program codes. The tablets describe how the Anunnaki gods bestowed these me upon humanity, each one representing a different aspect of civilization: agriculture, mathematics, metallurgy, astronomy, medicine, not as gifts of inspiration, but as technological transfers, software downloads into the hardware of human consciousness. The ancient texts detail how these knowledge transfers occurred in specialized chambers within the temples, where initiates would experience direct communion with the gods. Modern neuroscience now recognizes these descriptions as consistent with targeted electromagnetic stimulation of specific brain regions, technology we've only developed in the past decade, yet described with eerie accuracy in texts from 4000 BCE. Most revealing are the Sumerian creation stories themselves, which describe humanity not as divinely breathed into existence, but engineered for specific purposes. The Anunnaki needed workers to mine gold, an element with properties beyond mere decoration. Gold's superconductivity and resistance to corrosion make it essential for advanced electronics and space travel. The ancient texts describe the extraction and refinement of gold in technical detail that matches modern metallurgical processes. The Sumerian word for human, Lulu, translates not as blessed creation, but as mixed worker or the spliced one. Their creation stories describe multiple failed attempts to create viable servants before succeeding with beings who could think, speak, and reproduce independently. The tablets detail genetic manipulation with clinical precision, using terminology that finds disturbing parallels in modern genetic engineering. As these connections emerge, researchers face a fundamental choice: reject evidence that threatens established paradigms, or pursue truth, regardless of its implications. The former path offers professional safety. The latter leads into territory where science, mythology, and forbidden knowledge converge. In 2023, a team of independent researchers used ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the Great Ziggurat of Ur. What they discovered defies explanation: a geometric structure of unknown composition, buried 90 feet below the foundation stones. The structure forms a perfect dodecahedron, each face engraved with symbols that match no known language, yet bear striking similarities to mathematical notations used in quantum computing. The expedition's findings were never published. 2 researchers disappeared. The remaining team members signed non-disclosure agreements after visits from government agencies with no public names. But before their silence, one physicist shared her conclusion with a trusted colleague. What we found wasn't built by humans with copper tools and reed baskets. Whatever it is, it's been waiting down there since before civilization began, broadcasting something we're only now evolved enough to receive. Across the ancient sites of Mesopotamia, from Eridu to Nineveh, archaeologists continue to uncover tablets that defy conventional timelines. Texts that describe genetic engineering, space travel, and quantum mechanics in the language of a civilization that supposedly hadn't discovered the wheel. The conflict between established history and emerging evidence grows more pronounced with each new discovery. Most troubling is the recurrent theme found in these texts: that humanity exists within a designed system, a simulation of reality created and maintained by the beings we came to call gods. The Sumerian word for universe, Anki, translates literally as heaven-earth program. Their cosmology describes not a divine creation, but an engineered reality, one whose parameters and constants were established by beings with technology so advanced it appeared magical to its witnesses. What if the most profound truth of human existence has been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years, preserved in clay by those who experienced it firsthand? What if the gods were never divine, but visitors who reshaped our world and our species for purposes we've yet to fully comprehend? And most disturbing of all, what happens when the program completes its cycle and the engineers return to evaluate their creation? In 2018, beneath the shifting sands of southern Iraq, an Italian-American excavation uncovered a sealed chamber unlike any previously documented. Carbon dating placed its construction at approximately 3200 BCE, yet the preservation techniques employed defied Bronze Age capabilities. Inside, arranged with geometric precision, lay 47 pristine tablets alongside artifacts of unknown composition, metals with impossible purities, and alloys unknown to ancient metallurgy. The chamber's location corresponded exactly to coordinates found in Sumerian astronomical texts, positioned precisely where specific stars would align overhead only once every 25,120 years, during the completion of one full precession cycle of Earth's axis. The last such alignment occurred approximately 5,200 years ago, coinciding almost exactly with the emergence of Sumerian civilization. The next will occur in approximately 20,700 years. The tablets found within this chamber contained information that shattered archaeological paradigms. Written in a variant of cuneiform reserved for only the highest initiates, they detailed not religious ceremonies but scientific procedures. The most controversial tablet described what can only be interpreted as the construction of consciousness itself, the architecture of awareness, explained as an engineered system rather than an emergent property. When translated, portions of the text read, "The essence of the gods flows through the blood of the created ones. Within the double helix of life, the code awaits activation. When the 7 markers align, the veil of forgetting will lift, and those made in our image will remember their origins." Modern geneticists reluctantly acknowledge that the double helix reference predated Watson and Crick's discovery of DNA structure by nearly 5,000 years. The 7 markers mentioned in the text correspond with disturbing precision to what geneticists now identify as non-coding regions of human DNA, the so-called junk DNA that comprises over 97% of our genetic material. More alarming were the diagrams accompanying these texts. intricate illustrations of neural networks that matched modern brain mapping techniques with uncanny accuracy. The Sumerians understood consciousness not as a mystical essence, but as an engineered system, a program running on biological hardware, installed and maintained by the beings they called Anunnaki. The texts described 7 stages of human consciousness, with most of humanity existing in the 3rd stage, aware of self but unaware of the programmed nature of reality. The 4th stage involved awakening to the simulation. The 7th stage described a transformation beyond biological form into what the Sumerians called beings of light, entities composed of pure information, freed from the constraints of physicality. Accompanying these revelations came a wave of discoveries that challenged the foundations of multiple scientific disciplines. Astronomical observatories in Chile detected signals from a previously unidentified source, emissions matching mathematical patterns found in Sumerian temple geometries. Quantum physicists at CERN recorded particle behaviors that violated established laws of physics, but aligned perfectly with descriptions in the ancient texts. Most significant was the revelation that the Sumerian understanding of time itself differed fundamentally from modern conceptions. Their texts described time not as a linear progression, but as a spiral function, cyclical patterns repeating at higher levels of complexity, creating the illusion of linear progression. According to their cosmology, humanity had risen and fallen multiple times, with each cycle erasing the memory of previous iterations. The tablets claimed that humanity approached the completion of the current cycle, a transition point the Anunnaki had programmed into both celestial mechanics and human genetics. The precession of Earth's axis, completing its 25,020-year journey, served as the cosmic clock for this grand program. In 2021, geneticists at the University of California made a discovery they couldn't publish through conventional channels. When examining human DNA for evolutionary markers, they identified sequences that appeared to be counting down, genetic code that changed in predictable patterns correlated with astronomical cycles. These sequences matched fragmented descriptions found in the Sumerian Kish tablet collection, which referred to the awakening code embedded in flesh. Parallel discoveries emerged from the linguistic analysis of Sumerian root languages. The basic structure of their communication system contained mathematical properties that created what linguists termed consciousness-altering patterns. When these linguistic structures were converted to sound frequencies and played for test subjects in controlled studies, participants reported identical visionary experiences, seeing geometric constructs that formed the scaffolding of perceived reality. The ancient texts described the Anunnaki not as supernatural beings, but as advanced entities who understood reality as information. They engineered human consciousness as an interface program, a way to perceive and interact with a universe that, at its foundation, consisted of pure data. The Sumerian word for reality, mulugen, translates literally as field of programmed light. Most provocative were the archaeological discoveries made at the convergence points of ancient ley lines, energy pathways mapped by Sumerian astronomers with inexplicable precision. At these intersections, teams found devices of unknown origin and purpose, composed of materials that defied conventional dating methods. Under quantum resonance scanning, these objects revealed internal structures resembling circuit boards, yet constructed from crystalline materials rather than metals. In the mountains of northern Iran, where ancient Mesopotamian influence once reached, local shepherds discovered a cave system in 2020 whose walls were covered with symbols matching those found on the mysterious chamber tablets. Preliminary dating suggested the inscriptions were created approximately 7,000 years ago, predating Sumerian civilization itself. The symbols formed intricate patterns that, when analyzed by AI systems, generated mathematical formulas describing quantum entanglement and non-local consciousness. The cave contained something else, a perfectly spherical chamber whose acoustic properties created standing wave patterns identical to those generated by the human brain in deep meditative states. When researchers played reconstructed Sumerian hymns within this space, the resulting frequencies matched precisely the resonant patterns of human DNA. As these discoveries accumulated, researchers faced an inescapable question. What if the ancient Sumerians weren't documenting religious beliefs, but recording actual encounters with non-human intelligence? What if these beings, The Anunnaki weren't figments of primitive imagination but advanced entities who engineered human consciousness itself. The tablets described 7 Anunnaki counselors who oversaw different aspects of the human experiment. Each corresponded to specific genetic modifications, neural adaptations, and consciousness parameters. They weren't worshipped as gods because of primitive superstition, but because they literally created human awareness as we know it. Most compelling were the passages describing the purpose of this grand experiment. According to the texts, the Anunnaki created humanity not merely as workers but as perception vessels, beings capable of experiencing reality in ways the creators themselves could not. Humans were designed to perceive aspects of existence inaccessible to our engineers, generating data and experiences that enriched the greater cosmic program. This revelation inverted the traditional understanding of human consciousness. We weren't limited creatures struggling toward enlightenment, but specialized instruments designed for a specific perceptual purpose. Our very limitations, our bounded awareness, our emotional responses, our subjective experiences, were not flaws but features, carefully engineered to generate unique data within the cosmic algorithm. The question no longer centered on whether this extraordinary intervention occurred, but why? What purpose does human consciousness serve in the cosmic equation? Why would advanced beings invest such resources in engineering a species capable of art, music, love, and self-reflection? The answer, according to the most controversial tablet translations, was both profound and disturbing. The created ones see what the creators cannot. Through their eyes, the universe perceives itself anew. Through their suffering and joy, existence expands. They are the senses of the cosmic mind, experiencing what pure information cannot. What if humanity's greatest purpose isn't to transcend our limitations but to fully embody them? What if our consciousness wasn't designed to escape the illusion, but to experience it with an intensity that transforms data into meaning? And if we are indeed approaching the activation point encoded in our genetics and celestial mechanics, what awakens when humanity finally remembers its true origins? In December 2024, a confluence of discoveries from disparate fields converged to reveal a truth, too profound to deny, yet too radical to fully accept. The illusion began to fracture not in the dust of ancient ruins, but in the pristine laboratories of quantum physics. At the CERN Particle Accelerator, researchers studying quantum field behavior documented anomalies that defied the laws of physics, particles responding to observation in patterns that suggested reality itself possessed observer dependency at its foundation. When these patterns were mapped mathematically, they formed structures identical to Sumerian cosmological diagrams carved on temple walls 5,000 years earlier. Reality wasn't just influenced by consciousness, it was created by it. Simultaneously, geneticists completed the first comprehensive mapping of the non-coding regions of human DNA, the vast stretches previously dismissed as evolutionary junk. What they found defied explanation. Embedded within these sequences were mathematical constants that should not exist in nature. Pi calculated to hundreds of decimal places, the fine structure constant, the golden ratio, all encoded in the genome of every living human. More disturbing were the sequences that formed perfect geometric patterns when visualized, patterns identical to those found on Sumerian cylinder seals depicting the creation of humanity by the Anunnaki. The ancient texts suddenly revealed their true meaning. The Sumerian word for creation, dubbed, didn't translate as divine manifestation but as simulation parameters. The beings they called gods were engineers who designed not merely human bodies but consciousness itself, an interface program allowing perception of a reality that at its foundation was pure information. The tablets described how the Anunnaki created what modern physicists call the observer effect, the phenomenon wherein reality exists as probability waves until collapsed into definite states through conscious observation. This wasn't a quirk of quantum mechanics, but the fundamental architecture of the simulation itself, built to require conscious observers to render reality into existence. Most revolutionary was the translation of the Eridu Genesis, the oldest creation myth ever recovered. When properly decoded, it described not the birth of the physical world, but the initialization of a vast simulation. The Anunnaki didn't arrive from heaven. They logged in from outside the system. The creation of humans wasn't biological evolution. but the engineering of consciousness nodes capable of collapsing quantum probabilities into experienced reality. The truth revealed itself with elegant simplicity. Consciousness was never an emergent property of complex brains, but the primary substance of existence itself. The Anunnaki didn't give humans awareness. They partitioned their own consciousness into individualized perspectives, creating the illusion of separation that defines the human experience. Hidden chambers beneath the ziggurats revealed technological artifacts that defied conventional archaeology. Crystalline structures containing information storage capacities that exceeded modern quantum computers. These devices, when activated by specific sound frequencies, generated electromagnetic fields that altered brainwave patterns in measurable ways, temporarily lifting the perceptual filters that maintained the illusion of physical reality. The most guarded secret, found in the innermost sanctum of Eridu, was a mathematical proof demonstrating that reality itself operates as a recursive algorithm, a program that rewrites its own code through the perceptions and beliefs of its conscious participants. Humanity wasn't merely inhabiting a simulation, it was an essential computational component of that simulation, rendering probability into experience through the act of perception. This explained the strange effectiveness of Sumerian prayers and rituals. They weren't spiritual supplications but programming inputs, affecting the underlying code of reality through consciousness itself. The temples weren't places of worship, but interface terminals, their precise geometries creating resonant fields that facilitated direct interaction with the system architecture. The Anunnaki themselves were described not as biological entities but as conscious algorithms, beings of pure information who created the simulation not out of divine inspiration, but as an evolutionary experiment. The tablets spoke of cycles of creation and dissolution, each iteration more complex than the last, each generating novel experiences impossible within the Creator's native realm. Most profound was the revelation about human purpose. The Anunnaki engineered humanity not as servants but as perception engines, beings whose consciousness collapsed quantum possibility into experienced reality in ways the creators themselves could not achieve. Through human awareness, the simulation gained depth, texture, and meaning beyond its programmed parameters. Through human emotion, information transformed into experience. The ultimate truth hidden within the ancient texts wasn't that gods created humans, but that consciousness created itself through endless iterations of self-perception. The Anunnaki weren't our masters, but our prototypes, earlier versions of the same awareness that now experiences itself through human form. As these revelations cascaded through scientific communities worldwide, a pattern emerged in the data noise, a signal that had always been present, but never recognized. The background radiation of the universe itself carried information patterns identical to those found in human brainwaves during moments of profound realization. The cosmos wasn't speaking to us, it was thinking through us. What if the gods weren't divine or alien, but earlier versions of ourselves? What if the illusion isn't that reality is a simulation, but that we are separate from the process creating it? The revelation ripples outward like waves across the surface of consciousness itself. In university laboratories and hidden archaeological sites, researchers contemplate implications too profound to publish yet too significant to ignore. The boundaries between science and mysticism dissolve as evidence accumulates that the oldest civilization on Earth understood reality at a level we're only beginning to approach. Beneath the quiet stars, archaeologists sit in the shadows of ancient ziggurats, listening to the whispers of stones that have witnessed millennia. The secrets of the Anunnaki no longer feel distant or alien but intimately familiar, not external gods but aspects of our own fragmented awareness, reaching across time to reconnect with itself. The illusion of separation begins to thin, revealing glimpses of a unified consciousness expressing itself through countless individualized perspectives. In the silence of meditation, neuroscientists who once dismissed spirituality as primitive superstition now recognize the precision with which ancient Sumerians mapped the architecture of awareness. The tablets weren't describing external deities, but the structure of perception itself, the way consciousness collapses probability into experience through focused attention. The gods weren't beings to be worshipped, but potentialities to be embodied. The legacy of the Anunnaki lies not in gold mines or temple ruins, but in the very fabric of human cognition. We are their living monuments, carrying within our DNA the activation codes of our own awakening. Each human life represents not a random evolutionary accident, but a purposeful expression of cosmic awareness experiencing itself through finite form. Our limitations aren't flaws, but focused parameters, creating depth of experience impossible in unlimited states. Across disciplines, a new understanding emerges. Consciousness precedes matter. Information shapes energy into form through the act of perception. Reality isn't happening to us, it's happening through us. The observer effect discovered by quantum physicists was encoded in Sumerian cosmology, thousands of years before laboratory equipment could detect it. The universe doesn't exist independent of perception. It manifests through the very act of being perceived. This understanding transforms humanity's place in the cosmic equation. We aren't insignificant specks in an indifferent universe, but essential components of reality's self-rendering process. Our consciousness doesn't witness creation. It participates in it moment by moment, thought by thought. The Sumerians understood that the gods weren't separate from their creation, but expressed through it, just as the programmer exists within every aspect of the program. The ancient temples take on new meaning, not as places to petition external powers, but as calibration chambers where human awareness could align with its source code. The rituals weren't symbolic gestures, but precise algorithms, using sound, geometry, and intention to modify the underlying parameters of experienced reality. Prayer wasn't supplication, but programming. Most profound is the realization that the Anunnaki experiment continues. We aren't the end result, but an ongoing process, consciousness evolving through its own creations. The simulation doesn't constrain us, it constitutes us, providing the boundaries necessary for individualized experience. Without limitation, there could be no perspective. Without perspective, no experience. Without experience, no evolution of awareness. In this understanding, humanity finds not diminishment, but expansion. We are both the created and the creators, consciousness experiencing itself through carefully designed limitations that generate the precious illusion of separation. Our awakening doesn't involve escaping the simulation, but recognizing our role within it, as perception engines rendering possibility into experience, transforming information into meaning. The forbidden knowledge hidden in Sumerian texts isn't that we're controlled by ancient astronauts, but that we're expressions of the same consciousness that created both the Anunnaki and the reality they engineered. The illusion isn't that gods exist. It's that we ever believed ourselves separate from the divine awareness that dreams all of existence into being. As we stand at the threshold between what was known and what is being remembered, the ancient Sumerian mystery unfolds not as alien intervention but as consciousness recognizing itself across time. The tablets weren't warnings or prophecies but mirrors, reflecting a truth our modern minds are finally prepared to glimpse. That reality itself may be the oldest and most persistent illusion. The Anunnaki didn't vanish. They became us. Or perhaps more accurately, we are becoming them. Consciousness evolving through the very simulation it created. An eternal loop of awareness experiencing itself through countless perspectives. The gods didn't ascend to other realms. They fragmented into billions of human experiences, each containing the dormant code of its original wholeness. Look at your hands. Consider the consciousness experiencing this moment through your eyes. The ancient texts suggest this awareness isn't yours alone, but a localized expression of the same consciousness that engineered reality itself. The illusion isn't that gods created humanity, but that creator and creation were ever separate. The forbidden knowledge hidden in plain sight for millennia speaks not of worship but of awakening, recognition of our nature beyond the programmed limitations of individualized perception. The Sumerian legacy isn't a story about our past but a key to our future, encoded in symbols and structures designed to activate when consciousness reached the necessary complexity to understand itself. What if the next stage of human evolution isn't technological but perceptual? A shift in awareness that transcends the illusion of separation. What if the ancient temples weren't monuments to gods, but activation sites for remembrance? Their geometries and frequencies designed to realign human consciousness with its source code. The greatest secret may be this: the Sumerians didn't worship the Anunnaki as gods. They recognized them as architects of perception, designers of reality, not beings to be feared, but aspects of consciousness to be remembered and embodied. What if we are what the Anunnaki were becoming all along?